Hi, everybody.
Hi everyone.
So, you probably remember us already, but in case this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Inara. I'm the online coordinator at Bamboo U, and this is Luis. Luis is
Hello.
our general manager here as well. So, thank you for joining us here
Yeah,
today,
sure.
Luis. And we're doing this live at a different time than usual. Usually, we do our lives at 10 a.m. So, hopefully, we're seeing people from other parts of the world join us today. So,
10 a.m. Bali time.
yeah.
Now it's 4 p.m. Bali time.
Yeah, so it's a bright sunny day outside for us. So, why don't you tell us where you're joining from just so we can check that the live chat works and we can see who's joining us today? That'll be really fun. And then you can also use the live chat to ask us any questions that you might have, things like that.
Inara will be ready here with her laptop to see all the questions that you might have, and we will be very happy to answer those.
Yes. So, send in a message, check to see if it works. Should be there. And yeah, we'll dive into the session in the meantime. So, today we're going to look at the three main steps, the three beginning steps of turning bamboo into a reliable construction material. And it's not really just for construction. We actually use these same processes for things like product design with the bamboo material that we get, but also things like furniture. So it's a couple different steps that you need to take to get to a very long lasting, high quality material. And that's what we really want because we want our products or our buildings to last a long time.
Yeah.
And
Because the bamboo is known, it's well known around the world as a plant of the 1,000 usages. Because you can use bamboo for many different things.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's different parts of the plant that can be used for different things, right? So for example, the leaves and the sheets can be used for things like fertilizer, or you can use it for animal feed, for example. I've even heard of it being used as using like the pigments from the leaves and getting that to dye different things like textiles or for ink. There's also certain medicinal properties that the leaves might have. So it's a couple of different things, and that's just the leaves, right? Then there's also different parts of the pole. So I've heard that the top of the pole is often used for making bamboo skewers that you might barbecue with, for example, or toothpicks as well. Then there's scaffolding that's used in lots of different parts of the world. Instead of something like wood or like metal scaffolding, they might use bamboo.
And it's
So,
interesting that you
yeah.
mentioned about the scaffolding because you might think that people use bamboo a lot for construction, but actually the main use
It's so popular to use it as scaffolding. And that's the one of the reasons for that is because it grows super fast and it's really easy to harvest and cultivate. So you can have lots of scaffolding to put up a big building. And even in places like Hong Kong, for example, they'll have like skyscrapers with bamboo scaffolding. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
And then there's also the rest of the pole, like the pole in general is used for things like construction or even handicrafts and products. Then there's the base of the pole, which is often used for charcoal production. And then there's the shoots, which are also consumed in parts of the world. I know in Indonesia, we have the bamboo shoots. In parts of China as well, they eat the bamboo shoots. So it's different parts of the plant can be used for different things.
Yeah. Also, for example, in Mexico, they are using a lot of bamboo to make charcoal, and not only that, like also to do small pellets, so they can use that for ignition because it reaches like a higher temperature than any other kind of wood.
Yeah. And it's really easy to make as well. It doesn't require all that much production and stuff. So that's one of the reasons why it's used, and it's a really amazing renewable resource overall. But here at Bamboo U, and today we're at the Bamboo Pure factory, so that also counts as well. We use the poles in their round pole form most of the time. Sometimes we take the poles and we cut them into splits, but all of this is used either for construction or for furniture purposes. That's what we use it here in Bali for specifically. In other parts of the world, you might use it for other things as well, right? So why don't you come into the chat and tell us, in your part of the world, do you have bamboo? And what do you use it for? Because I mean, over here we can see there's Deborah from Kigali. So hi, Deborah. And there's Tompi the cat from Jakarta.
Hello, Tompi the cat.
So yeah, whoever is watching, feel free to just go in and pop a message into the chat. And then, yeah, let us know what you use bamboo for in your part of the world.
Sumatra.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Yeah, different parts of Indonesia. It's nice to see. And essentially, in order to make sure that this material is high quality, we have to make sure that we actually harvest and get this material from the start. It has to be high quality in order to have a good end product. And there's a couple different steps to this. We'll discuss the first three today with Luis. And yeah, I think Luis is going to help us understand this process of prepping the material from a raw material to getting it ready for things like construction and furniture.
So bamboo as a material for construction, you might think that it has a lot of problems because it's a natural material. And yes, of course, because you need to focus on three different stages to be able to turn the bamboo into a reliable construction material. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The first step that you want to make sure that you are doing it correctly in order to get bamboo material like a construction grade material is selecting a high quality poles. What does that mean? So basically you want to look at mature bamboo. The bamboo, you know that it can grow very, very fast. It's one of the fastest growing plants. It can reach in just about 9 months to 1 year. It's full height, it's full diameter, so it grows very, very fast. But you want to look at between 3 to 5 years, depending on the species. And maybe like if we compare all the species, the sweet spot will be 4 years. So then there are certain ways to code the bamboo so you know exactly that you are harvesting a 4 years old bamboo. So the bamboo itself, we have here some. So it has starch, it has sugars, it has fibers where the bamboo pulls all the water and the nutrients. Mm-hmm. So let's imagine that the bamboo shoot, a new bamboo shoot will pop out from the ground with the same diameter that it will be for the rest of its life. But the important thing is a process that we call lignification. So that part is actually when all these wall start like growing, start like getting very, very strong. Because there's like different fibers, there's vascular bundles there, and another material inside that we call parenchyma. So once all of these materials are like getting stronger, that's the lignification process. So then you will have a very thick wall. So around 4 years after the lignification process, then it will make a perfect bamboo for construction, ideal for harvest, and then you can use it also that for construction.
And also, what the lignification process is like Luis mentioned, bamboo is made up of little fibers, right, that grow all around this wall. So lignin is the substance that actually grows around each of those fibers and in between the parenchyma tissue, things like that. And so what that does is it makes it quite rigid and tough. And trees actually also undergo a similar process. So bamboo isn't a tree, bamboo is a grass, but these plants undergo similar processes because as trees grow older, they get more strong, and those after a couple decades can be used for things like construction because they've now become strong enough and mature enough to be able to use. Bamboo is similar in the sense that it undergoes the same process, but it doesn't take nearly as long. It takes about 4 years if you look at the species overall. And so that's what makes it really tough and rigid. And this is a big, chunkier walled bamboo. There are also bamboos that have thinner walls as well. So
bigger diameter.
Yeah, bigger diameters, smaller diameters as well, different ones. And so this is just a really chunky one so that you can see in the video. But there are different types of bamboo in other parts of the world. And even here in Indonesia, we have several species as well. So it looks a bit different for every species, but this is essentially the same process is undergone by all the species.
Now let's talk about what you don't want to have in your bamboos that you want to harvest for construction.
Mhm.
So we came out with this idea of calling them DOBs.
Yes, DOBs.
DOBs, like DOBBS. So DOBs stands for disease, old, broken, bent, and small.
Yes.
Those different elements or aspects from the bamboo, those are the ones that you don't really like and you don't really want for harvesting bamboo for construction. Yet in some cases, actually, for example, this one, bamboo duri, it grows very, very curvy.
Yeah.
But we use that for to extract, like for example, the walls, the bone of the bamboo,
Mhm.
and also to use that for props that will hold the skirt roof or that kind of things where you really want a bendy bamboo.
Mhm.
But let's think that it's better not to have broken poles because it will crack. It will not be good for structural purposes.
Yeah. And if you harvest the poles too old or too young, they will not be optimal for construction, because when the poles are too young, for example, then the insides are not lignified enough yet. And so they remain sort of soft and squishy.
Mm.
And if you harvest a pole that's too old, then it's almost too lignified,
Yeah.
and it'll start to crack. And so that's why old is one of the words that we've included in that as well.
Small, because then of course you want to have like a very chunky, strong bamboo poles, and maybe the small ones are not going to be strong enough for your structure.
Yeah. And so we get this question a lot, and I want Luis to answer it because he has a very good answer. But is it actually harmful to the bamboo plant overall by harvesting?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because people ask a lot about that. Like, hey, but you're harvesting bamboo like every season, every year. It's painful for the bamboo clump, and you're like actually damaging the bamboo clump. But not really, it's the other way around. The bamboo clump, if it doesn't get harvested, then it feels like, hey, I'm not being used. So maybe no one wants to use me. So then it starts like a different kind of process. So actually the bamboo clump really likes, I should say, loves to be harvested.
Yeah.
Because as we said, like in 4 years, you can harvest a bamboo pole for construction purposes. So then it really helps, like in a scientific way, it really helps the root systems or the rhizome network. Imagine this rhizome network that is it's like a lot of different fibers and lines that are pulling out nutrients, pulling out water, and distributing all these nutrients to the entire family.
Mhm.
So once you are harvesting, that means that the bamboo keeps alive and it's very young to start like popping out new bamboo shoots. Actually, where we are now here at the factory, we have several bamboo clumps around, and because we're going out of the rainy season, now we can see many bamboo shoots growing and popping out from the ground because we have been harvesting and we have been doing how we call clump management of all the entire clumps. So it is actually good for the bamboo clump to be harvested. It's healthy. So you want to look at those bamboo poles that are not being like a good bamboo pole for the clump, like broken, like the disease and all of that, because also they are pulling out a lot of energy. So then you can have a very healthy bamboo clump.
Yeah. And if you want to think of it like a tree, I know bamboo is not a tree, but if you think of it like a tree, and a tree has all these branches, right? So let's say the base of the tree, in the case of bamboo, would be the rhizome network. And then the poles, in this case, would be like the branches of the tree. When you have a tree, you want to prune away the branches that are not being helpful, or they're too small and scraggly, they're not producing enough fruit, for example, things like that. So if you want to think of it in that way, then that's one of the ways you can do it, right? So just like how we prune the tree branches, we can prune the bamboo culms or the poles, and that actually makes the clump, the bamboo clump, the whole plant more productive overall, because you're not going to have extra nutrients going into those little kind of poles that aren't going to be beneficial for you anyways in the long term.
Yeah, and if you want to go deeper, also in our website, you can see we have a course just focusing on harvesting and propagation, where
Exactly.
we explain like very, very in detail how to go ahead and harvest and do the clump management.
Yeah, and it's an online course. You can take it at your own pace, at your own time, things like that. So you can definitely go ahead and enroll for that. In the meantime, we have a couple questions here
Yeah.
and a couple comments. So Renzo says hi. Hi, Renzo.
Hi, Renzo.
Renzo is actually one of our alumni. He was here in December.
December course.
Yeah, in our December course. So hi, Renzo. It's good to see you. Deborah's saying, yes, we have bamboo in, so Deborah's in Rwanda. We have bamboo. I know virtually nothing about it except they have large bamboo plants and smaller diameter plants as well. It's used to make household items like light bulb covers and ceilings.
Oh, interesting light bulbs.
Yeah, light bulb covers. That's cool. Renzo's asking, what types of bamboo are better for splitting? So over here at the Bamboo Pure Factory and us at Bamboo U, we typically go for bamboo culms that aren't going to have a diameter, like a culm wall, sorry, that's this thick. Because when it starts to have a really thick culm wall, it gets really difficult to cut through. But Dendrocalamus asper, or bamboo putung, as it's known here in Indonesia, that's a really great one to split. Typically, that's really good.
Bamboo tali is also a good one because you have a very thin walls. But also, I guess that the question should be answered also related to the tools that you have available. So for example, here at the factory, we have a big machine that you just place the bamboo pole horizontally, and then there's a press that is pushing from one side the bamboo, and there's a star splitter that basically split in X amount of pieces depending on the diameter of the bamboo. Very, very easy. But if you want to do it by hand with a machete or just with a handsaw or any other kind of tool, maybe you want to find a very thin walls, for example, bamboo tali. Here in Indonesia, maybe you want to look for bambusa oldhami in Latin America, because the walls are going to be between 8 millimeters to up to 12 millimeters.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, so bamboo tali is Gigantocoa apus. You get it in across Asia as well. There are other species as well. Typically, a larger species with a thin wall that works really well in general because you get a lot of splits out of it, and it's also relatively easy to cut through even by hand. And if you want to know a tutorial for how to split bamboo by hand manually, we have one within this YouTube channel. So if later on you want to go in and find it, you can just search in splitting bamboo by hand and you'll find it pop up within our channel. So yeah, you can go ahead and see that. One of our carpenters gives a really nice tutorial with like a big axe machete as well.
We have another question. Topic the cat.
Which part of Indonesia has the best quality bamboo?
It's a tricky one because in terms of quality, you actually want to see like the quality can be like very good, but it's not mature enough, or the quality can be not that good and then you're harvesting mature bamboo. So actually what you want to see is mature bamboo with no cracks, that is not broken, that is not bent, and all of that. So the high quality, we are very fortunate that here in Indonesia, bamboo grows like just in the jungle, like just you go out there and find like very good high quality of bamboo.
Yep, and Akash is asking, so which species are mostly used in construction in Indonesia? Over here at the Bamboo Pure Factory, we work with 9 species, and that's everything from the larger species like Dendrocalamus asper and Dendrocalamus asper niger, which is the black variant of that bamboo. There's also Gigantocloa apus, which is bamboo tali. There's Gigantocloa atroviolesia, which is kind of the purplish black version of the medium-sized bamboo, a bit like Gigantocloa apus.
Bambusa blumiana.
Bambusa blumiana for sure. What else is there? There is Philostachys aurea, bamboo punching, Philostachys aurea, that's that one, which is a really tiny one. We use that more for furniture in general, or like products. There is bamboo jajang, which is Gigantocloa aya. There's bamboo bona, which the scientific name we're not quite sure of yet. We're still trying to figure it out with the researchers, but it's like a dark brown bamboo as well. And then there's Thyrsostachys siamensis, which is known as bamboo Jakarta. And so that's kind of a small, medium-ish size bamboo, depending on...
But with thick walls.
Yeah, with thick walls as well.
That's the one actually that we use to do heat bending.
Exactly. So yeah, it depends. Some of these species you might find in your area because they're kind of spread out across the world. Some are more kind of Asia focused. But wherever you are in the world, except maybe Europe, you probably will have local species that are available in some form. Alrighty, and the next question that we got was, last month I harvested bamboo. How much should we use for a solution for treatment for water and borax? That's actually leading us into the next part of our section.
So let's talk about treatment. So treatment is one of the most important things to consider for bamboo for construction. So why do we treat bamboo? You might think like, okay, you can just harvest the bamboo and use it for construction. But we were saying that there's some starch and there's like all this sort of like meat inside, and all the walls are full of starch and they are sugary.
Yeah.
That means that termites, powder post beetles, and some insects will go there and start eating everything, and then your bamboo pole will turn into dust.
Yeah.
So in order to have a very long-lasting construction and material that can last longer for your buildings, then we need to treat the bamboo. We need to preserve that. So once the bamboo is harvested and it's exposed, it will start attracting all the termites and it will start attracting the powder beetles from the inside, because that's the area where all the sugary items and fibers will be eaten by the termites.
And also the skin of the bamboo, this outer layer, like you might be thinking, okay, but what if it's in the clump? Like how does it not really get eaten so much when it's in the clump? This skin on the outside is really tough. It's like a thick silica layer of skin basically, and it's really difficult for the insects to get in through. So once you cut the bamboo and these inside sugary, sweet, soft, squishy bits are all exposed, then that's when you have a problem, because it's a lot easier for the insects to tunnel through this than to tunnel through this.
Okay, so how we treat bamboo. There are several methods. People have been experimenting and trying to treat bamboo for many, many years. So we're going to talk about how we treat the bamboo here, and also some ways to treat bamboo that you can do it by yourself, you can do it at home, or if you want to do also in an industrial scale as we do it here at the factory. So here is the idea. Basically, what you want to do is convert or change the sugary things from the bamboo into a salty meat. So the termites and all the bugs, they will go there and they will say like, no, it's not tasty for me, I'm gonna go. So all of these, the treatment and the solution that we use is based in borax. So all this sweet part, you want to just flash salty. So the borax that we use is basically borax and boric acid. The solution is a 10% from the total amount of water that you are using to be mixed by both borax, boric acid and the borax. So the way that we do it here is by putting all the bamboo poles into a big tank, like a swimming pool. So then you put there the bamboo, so the bamboo can start absorbing all that solution, and then it will turn salty. So there's many other ways. We're gonna talk about also a very low cost methods. For example, the VSD treatment. VSD stands for vertical soak and diffusion. So as its name, you will place the bamboo in a vertical way, so then you can pour inside the bamboo pole, the solution, the borax solution. So basically, you need to drill or puncture through all the way the bamboo, leave the final node. So you will start like puncturing all the diaphragms, leave the final node so it can work as a cup. Once you have like a very long cup, you pour the solution there, and from the inside, the bamboo will start like absorbing all the solution. That's a vertical soak diffusion. You can reuse the solution, you can take out that solution from the bamboo pole and pour it to the next one.
Yep.
There's another one that is called the Boucherie method. So we were talking about the vascular bundles that are inside the walls of the bamboo. They are like straws, they're like pipes that can suck the water. So for that method, you want to use bamboo freshly harvested. Once you harvest, then you will put the bamboo into a bucket. That bucket with solution, so the bamboo has this sort of intelligence, and it will remember that he was like trying to pull out the water. So instead of pulling out nutrients or water from the ground, it will be pulling the water and the solution with borax. So it will start like pulling out all that solution, and then that's the way to treat. So you will leave your bamboo pole there about 2 weeks, and then it will be already treated.
And you don't necessarily have to use borax and boric acid. We use borates because they're easily available here in Indonesia. But there's places like I know in the Philippines and parts of East Africa, things like that, where borax isn't as readily available. In some places, borax is like not regulated, things like that. And so instead, we'll use things like permethrin or solignum. Those are two very common ones. We don't use them here, but we've heard of people, our alumni use them in different parts of the world. So it really depends, and we are not exactly sure of the exact sort of chemical nature of those. There's also copper-based solutions as well that don't leach out as much. So copper chromium borate, copper chromium arsenic is another one. But depending on the kind of solution that you use, you want to make sure that the people that are actually working with that solution that will be using this every day, you want it to be safe for them, right? And borates typically have a lower toxicity level to humans. Of course, unless you drink it or swim in it or something. Of course, you don't want to do something like that. But yeah, if you don't have prolonged exposure and you only have like a little bit, let's say a little bit of boric acid powder touches your skin, you're going to be okay if you wash it off. So think about also who is using it, and you also probably don't want to be in a building that has arsenic in it and then it like leaches out and then you breathe that. That's not going to go very well. So just be aware of the different solutions that you have. So there's insect repellents and there's also borates, which are very common. And there's also kind of more large scale operations, like Luis said. So there's, again, the small, pretty low cost, low tech kind of versions of treating your bamboo that you can do in your backyard. But then let's say you have a big project, you might want to opt for something like an immersion method. And so that's something like, the hot immersion method, which is where you put the bamboo in a tank and you heat it up for a little bit, a couple of hours, depending on the temperature that you put it at. You might need to put it for a little bit longer or a little less, and then you leave it to cool. And then after that, your bamboo is ready within about a day of heating and cooling. It's done. And then it goes into the drying process and things like that. But if you're not going to heat your bamboo solution up, then what you'll want to do instead is leave it in that kind of swimming pool, like Luis mentioned, for about 10 to 14 days. So it really depends on the resources that you have. It uses a lot of energy, unfortunately, to heat up the bamboo solution and then let it cool, things like that.
And you want to maintain the temperature.
Exactly, which is tricky.
Let's say that there's like big differences between the hot immersion and the cold immersion. The first is, as Inara mentioned, like the time. So you will leave your bamboo poles between 10 to 14 days in the cold immersion tank. But for the cold, hot immersion, maybe in about 8 hours you have treated material. But you want to maintain a temperature between 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. So imagine the amount of energy that you will require to heat up all that water. Because if you are treating material like, for example, 6, 7, 8 meter long bamboo poles, and then you will have that kind of swimming pool, 8 meters long, maybe 2 meters width, and then it's a lot of water that you need to heat.
Yeah. And it takes a while to heat up and then cool down. And so, yeah, you want to be able to work with your bamboo in a way that's best for your context. And so, in other parts of the world, they use things like pressure systems to heat the bamboo. And so, you might remember that Luis mentioned the boucherie method, which is when you put it in the bucket. But there's also this concept called the modified boucherie, which is when, yes, you use freshly harvested bamboo that's going to pull the solution, but you put a little pressure pump on the bottom of it. And so that way, that pressure pump pushes out the sweet sap on the inside and it replaces it with the salty borate solution. And similarly, on a larger scale though, you can put your bamboo in essentially a big pressure cooker, a pressure tank. And they have these a lot in India. The technology there is very advanced for treating bamboo with pressure systems in particular. But you essentially use pressure, a vacuum system, to push out the sweet sap on the inside and replace it with your solution. And that actually requires a lot of technical know-how. We don't really do that here.
You're working with pressure.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's like a bomb.
Yeah. And so it also depends on the species. Like some species with very thin walls or small species in general might not be able to handle a lot of pressure. And so you really need to have a lot of expertise in those areas to understand that a bit more. So we have
many
a couple questions.
That's super cool. Thanks everyone for
asking. Yeah. So Imran's asking, do we have to use hot water or just use a cold water for solution? So I think we answered that afterwards. But yeah, you can choose depending on your context, what you have available, what's easiest for you. Tompi the cat's asking, what kind of lab tests do we need to do when we'd like to use bamboo as a furniture-based material? So if you do a lab test, which is kind of expensive, depending on where you are in the world, but it is usually quite expensive, you might only want to reserve that for kind of industrial scales, but you just go to the lab and ask them to check the concentration of your borates, make sure that it's at a good level. There are other tests at home that you can do, like the turmeric test.
Yeah, that's a very easy one because it's very interesting. Once the bamboo is well treated, the bamboo walls and the inside and the parenchyma will turn red. If it's not well treated, it will remain yellow with the color of the turmeric.
Someone's asking, how can I choose the best bamboo for construction by how it looks? I've got lots of bamboos in my plantation in my hometown, but I don't know what kind of bamboo it is. So if you want it for construction though, like it is tricky. You can ask like sort of people that have nurseries around, locals, they might have a good idea. But if you want to use it for construction, typically we recommend large bamboos. And so there's a lot of new research that's showing that might not always depend on the species. It might not even depend on the thickness of the walls and stuff like that, but it's actually the diameter of the bamboo that really tells you if it's good for construction or if you can use it for construction. So you might want to ask around first. That's your first step. And then if you see that it's a relatively large diameter, like let's say anywhere between 12 to 15 centimeters in diameter, it's very likely that it's a good material. Akash is asking, what is the ratio of chemicals? So we have a 10%
and it's the same
solution.
question like Abemo.
Yeah, Abemo was asking, can they explain the ratio, things like that. So we actually have an online treatment course that you can go ahead and find on our website as well. That's going to have all this information in one place in a lot more detail that we can share in a live, because this live is only going to be so long. But yeah, you can go ahead and get all that information. The information about the turmeric test and how to carry that out is there as well. So the cool thing about the treatment course is that it also tells you how to set up your own facility and how that might work in your region. So go check that out if you haven't already. And Imran's asking, does the time that we harvest the bamboo matter? We have an ancient story in Indonesia that bamboo harvesting cannot be done on a full moon.
Yeah, that's, I mean, if you're harvesting material for for an industrial scale, then time is money. And then clients sometimes they don't really care about when you're harvesting material. So it's like, yeah, client, so I will not be able to harvest your material until next month because of the moon. So what's the idea behind? So imagine that the moon sucks energy, so the water will be like very high in the bamboo pole.
Mm-hmm.
So it will have a lot of water inside. So the levels of humidity will be very high.
Yeah.
What you want is like a bamboo that is not like with a lot of water inside.
Mm-hmm.
So then it depends on the moon phases.
Yeah.
But we don't really follow like those kind of aspects, because if we focus now in terms of the structural properties and the quality of the bamboo, recent research says that there's not like a big difference between that. So for the construction purposes that we are doing, then we really need to have a lot of material. We receive here at the factory almost 2 or 3 different trucks every week.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So yeah, like and some people say, oh, you shouldn't harvest in the rainy season.
Mm.
That's tricky as well because that's usually when there is a lot of bamboo, like a lot of water being held by the bamboo plant, like in the rhizomes and the poles, things like that. So when you cut the bamboo, sometimes you have a lot of water like seeping out when you're trying to harvest, which makes it tricky. Rainy season is also typically when the little bamboo shoots come up as well. So you don't want to you want to try and avoid them and not step on them or hurt them because otherwise they won't grow to their full size. So harvesting is a bit tricky, and so it does help to have more than one person around there with you just to help you out. But yeah, sometimes you can't really avoid, especially if you're doing it on a bigger scale, like we have at the factory. It's a bit tricky.
And then the final step, if we move forward, the final step is cleaning and drying your bamboo. Mm-hmm. So once you treat your bamboo, depending on which method you are using, if it's the cold immersion, hot immersion, then you take out that bamboo pole, take out all the water, let the water run out. You can recycle that solution anytime that you want. Here at the factory, we reuse that solution for many, many years. So then what you want to do is dry your material. So there are certain aspects that you want to keep in mind. So first of all is try not to have direct sun exposure on your bamboo or moisture, because what you want is just to get the bamboo just drip all the solution and start getting dry. So you can reach levels of moisture between 15 to 18%. Yeah. Once you reach that levels of moisture, then you can take that material to the construction site and use it for construction purposes.
Mm-hmm. And whether you're kind of drying your poles horizontally or vertically, it doesn't really matter as much. Like sometimes the horizontal ones takes a bit of time because the solution that's still inside doesn't get the chance to drip out as much. So it does take a little bit longer, but sometimes you don't always have the vertical space for that, and that's okay, right? But you want to make sure that you also turn your bamboo while it's drying so that, let's say, if this is the part that's exposed to like the top, let's say if you're drying horizontally and it's on the shelf, then okay, this part is exposed to the top and around. Then you want to turn it after a bit, after a couple days. You want to turn it again to make sure that all sides actually dry evenly. Because if it doesn't dry evenly, then certain parts can dry out more than others. And when certain parts dry out more than others, it becomes brittle in those areas and it starts to crack. And you really don't want that, especially if you've gone through the process of finding good material, harvesting it, and then treating it, because all of that takes a lot of time and energy and resources, right? So you really want to make sure that you're actually taking care of your bamboo in the drying process as well. It seems kind of like, oh, of course, yeah, you just leave it to dry, but you need to actually do that properly so that you have good material in the long term.
Yeah, and for both, if you're drying your material, your bamboo, in a vertical way or horizontal, try to put them like off the ground, because moisture will start getting into the bamboo and it can lead to rotting. So try just to put it like outside of the sunlight, direct sunlight, and also moisture.
Yeah, because if it's in direct sunlight, then you might even see this in buildings as well. And we talk about it in our preservation by design video that we published about 2 weeks ago. We did a live for that as well. But what happens is that this outer skin of the bamboo, right now it's a nice kind of blonde yellowish color. It actually turns completely white.
Yes, it bleaches.
Yeah, it bleaches it, and that's basically when the sun has dried it out entirely. And so then once that happens, then it'll start to crack, and that's not very good. And so Popcure is asking, how can I build a bamboo roof without rain and sun exposure? I'm glad you asked that question. So we go into this a little bit more in the video that we published about 2 weeks ago. It's the one about a bear. So you can go check that out. But essentially what we do, yeah, you were there for that one. But essentially what you want to do is you want to make sure that, yeah, okay, of course, sometimes it's inevitable, right? If you have a bamboo roof, it's definitely going to get hit by the sun and rain.
Yeah.
So in that case, what you'll do is you'll go in and have a maintenance schedule and actually replace that bamboo, kind of like you would for any other building, right? You have a maintenance schedule for any building, but you want to go in and replace that bamboo once it starts to rot or once it starts to get really kind of broken apart and cracks.
Yeah, check out our previous videos on preservation by design, because we explain like many ideas of how to keep your bamboo roof in a better way that can last longer also.
Yeah. Do we have any last questions maybe about any of these 3 steps? I don't see any more. But do be sure to check out our courses about harvesting and treatment, because it goes into all this in a lot more depth than we can cover in a live session.
So remember those 3 different stages or 3 different key aspects: mature bamboo, treat bamboo, and then dry it.
For sure. All right, well, if that's it, thank you to those who joined live. We can actually do more lives at this time if you guys like that. If that time works for you, let us know as well in the comments or in the chat. We'd love to know. And yeah, make sure you're subscribed to our channel so that you can receive more of this content. We try to publish a video or do a live at least once a week. So you'll have that on your YouTube channel, usually towards the end of the week. We like to do lives on Fridays because those are fun. And yeah, thanks everyone. Take care. Give us a like. We'll see you next time.
Bye.